That thing's huge. I just really love these ants. I forgot I was filming Jackson the Wildlife and not Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
My name is Jack, and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the globe to find some of nature's most unique and dangerous animals. My goal? To show the world that even the most bizarre, or perhaps even deadly life forms on Earth deserve both our respect and our appreciation. Now, this mission has brought me face to face with some of planet Earth's most venomous and unique ant species. In today's adventure, we're headed to East Texas on the search for one of the most iconic ant species in the United States, the Texas leafcutter ant. Let's see what we can find.
So right now, basically what I'm doing is I'm just kind of scanning the sides of the road as I kind of drive down, and I'm looking for the telltale sloping anthills that these amazing Texas leafcutter ants make. They're very easy to distinguish from normal anthills just because of that shape. They kind of make them into a kind of sloping crescent, and there's usually a lot of them. These are some of the largest nests of any species of ant in the world, and definitely easily one of our largest native ants. These construct gigantic nests, gigantic colonies. They can have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of workers, so they should be really easy to spot. But I really want to get a nice, big, juicy colony for you all to see at home. So I'm hoping that after a little bit of driving, we'll have some luck finding the beautiful Texas leafcutter ant.
It didn't take long before we found exactly what we were looking for.
What is that? Oh my gosh. I think we found some. That looks like a nice succulent colony. Whoa, that thing's huge. That's the jackpot of all Addite colonies. All right, I think we found our leafcutter ants. Okay, all right, folks. This is wow. Okay, I'm gonna creep in here. Wow. I'm gonna just move in. Hey, girls. You got room for one more in this colony here? The beautiful, the illustrious, the magnificent. Addite Texana, the Texas leafcutter ant. Now, these are by far one of my most favorite species of ants in the world, and I am so lucky to have them native to the great state of Texas, which is my home state. These are fantastic ants. So these are true leafcutter ants. They're in the genus Addite, just like our species that range through Central and South America. Those are our leafcutter ants, our big leafcutter ants, our giant leafcutter ants. So the queens of these species are not at all dissimilar to the queens that I have found in Costa Rica of Addis cephalotes, our giant leafcutter ant. These are massive, massive, massive queens, and they create, as you can see, gigantic colonies. This is a single colony of ants, folks. Not this pile, but all these piles are part of one colony. And you can see, man, I'm just getting blinded by the sun here. That's intentional. These ants, just like all other ants, are cold-blooded. They are ectotherms. They get all of their body heat, their energy from external sources, from their environment. So they strategically have placed their nests in the direct sunlight here, because as that sun bears down on this nice flat cleared area, which they have also made for themselves. That's right, they cut all the stuff away. They move all these tiny plants and pieces of gravel and all that stuff, they move it all out of the way so that when they catch that sun, it acts like a big old heat dish and it collects that heat, and they can bring their larvae, their brood, all the way up underneath the surface to the higher chambers underground so that those larvae can get enough warmth from the sun in order to develop quickly, fast, and efficiently. So they are amazing engineers. These ants create some of the most intricate and sophisticated ant colonies in the world. So what might just look like a bunch of little holes here, these are strategically placed. Why? Because leafcutter ants, you know they cut leaves, but what do they use the leaves for? They use the leaves to culture a fungus called Addite. And when you break when you break that word down, you get Atta, which is the genus of these ants, and myces, which means mushroom. So they actually completely depend on the ants for food, this mushroom. And then the ants in turn completely depend on the mushroom for food. How fascinating is that? So what they do is they culture this fungus in chambers all over this nest underground. As deep as 25 feet underground, they can have these chambers full of fungus. But this fungus respires, right? As it grows, it lets off gas, carbon dioxide. What happens if it fills with carbon dioxide in this nest is it kills all the ants, all their babies, the queen, everybody dies. So these ants have strategically placed openings all over this area because as this light breeze comes through, it pulls that carbon dioxide, wafts it out, and the ant colony has built air exchange systems into the ground. And they've been doing this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. They have constructed some of the most elaborate tunnel systems, farming chambers, everything that we as humans do, these ants have done far before we have, which is just so unbelievably fascinating. These are spectacular ants.
Some of the oldest farmers on Earth, these animals quite literally shape ecosystems with their nests. Addite, the fungus these ants culture, is completely unable to spread and reproduce on its own, as it's lost the ability to spread spores far back in its evolutionary history. This means that these ants have been sustaining and culturing this fungus since before human beings ever came to be. How spectacular is that? Additionally, these ants have a symbiotic relationship with antimicrobial bacteria that helps them to keep harmful parasites or competing fungi from getting into their colonies and destroying their fungal gardens. Wow.
Oh, I forgot I was filming Jack's World of Wildlife and not Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So, what's nice about these ants, unlike the ants in the Indiana Jones movie, they just feed on that fungus. And additionally, they don't have stingers, but they can bite. The major soldiers, which are the larger ones, they have really sharp mandibles. I mean, they all do, but the soldiers have much larger mandibles. And they are like scissors, right? They're using them to cut up leaves, cut up pieces of fungi, or any organic material that they can find so that they can feed their fungus. So if one of these major workers gets a hold of you, it can just slice through your skin just like that. And it's not a pleasant experience, I imagine. But luckily, these aren't going to swarm out and devour me, even though I am quite literally laying in their nest. But I just love these ants. They're so spectacular, so special. And I love that we get them in Texas here. And we're just in East Texas right now. We're not anywhere tropical. We're not in any kind of crazy ecosystem. We've got some oak trees behind me and some nice sandy soil, and that's more than enough for these beautiful ants. So it's really special when you get to see what you would generally consider to be tropical, distant, far away species right here in the United States. And that's what's so special when we get these animals that have kind of colonized the Americas, and they get to stretch up just a little bit into the US because, like I said, this is what you would think of when you think Costa Rica or the Amazon. You think leafcutter ants, but we have true giant leafcutter ants right here at home. And that's just so much fun. And these are really, really important to their native ecosystems. You might not realize this, but a colony of this size can easily eat as much foliage, leaf material, plant material, as an adult cow per day. How wild is that? You think, okay, these are ants, like they must have a pretty small impact on their ecosystem, right? No, we've seen colonies dotted all along this road all day. And each of these colonies can defoliate, if they wanted to, an entire tree in a matter of days. These animals are incredible ecosystem engineers. They can defoliate so much plant material that a lot of people might consider these to be pests if they find their way onto your properties. These are our native ants. They're important to have around. In fact, the Texas horned lizard not only will eat Pogona myrmex, harvester ants, they will also feed on leafcutter ants. So the decline of these species, as well as the decline of harvester ants, has led to the decline of our beautiful state reptile, the Texas horned lizard. So every single one of these colonies that we're seeing today is just an indication of how healthy this environment is, but it's also a reminder of how important even the smallest creatures can be to their ecosystem. These animals are important herbivores in this environment, in this ecosystem. They are eating a lot of vegetation, and what they're doing when they're culturing that fungus is they're adding a lot of nutrients to the ground. When this colony, I had a fly in my throat. When this colony is dead and gone, that nutrients, those fungal gardens will break down, and it adds precious minerals and nutrients back into the soil for these native plants, these trees, these wildflowers to utilize. So these animals are not only engineering their own colonies, their own nests, but they're doing their part to engineer the very nutrition in the soil of their ecosystems, which is just spectacular.
I am always so impressed by the resilience and sophistication of ants. These workers will work constantly to ensure their nest's survival. The worker ants subsist off of the plant sap and juices that accumulate as they physically cut the leaves. Now this means that all the fungal culturing they do is all for the benefit of the queen and the brood. It's easy to be inspired by such a streamlined and selfless community thriving right under our noses.
I just really love these ants. They're so cute and cool. One of my favorite native species, Addite Texana. They're so beautiful. They get a nice kind of rusty, deep red color, lots of spines and hairs all over their body. They're just so awesome. In fact, I used to keep these ants. I had some Addite Texana colonies, and the queens are just alien looking. They're so big compared to these workers. Even these large soldiers pale in comparison to the size of these queens. That's because these queens are what we call claustral ant queens. And what that means is after they have this huge nuptial flight, which in Texas usually happens around April or May, after heavy torrential rain, these colonies send out thousands upon thousands upon thousands of winged ants called elates. Now these are both male and female. They fly out into these huge mating swarms, these giant ant queens. They mate. The males, of course, have served their purpose and they will die. And the queens will land on the ground. She'll tear off her wings and she'll burrow into the ground. At that point, she will spit out this tiny little piece of the fungus garden that she took from her mother colony. And she will start to, of course, defecate on this piece of fungus, feeding it. Now, when I say claustral queens, this means that she basically seals the tunnel behind her. She burrows into the ground and relies on her gigantic abdomen, of which she's stored nutrients in, to not only expel feces from to feed the fungus as she starts to grow that, but to also have the nutrients to create eggs and lay eggs and feed the larvae the fruiting bodies from the fungus. So she quite literally stores all the food she needs in this big old booty, burrows into the ground, and she just has to wait around until she's got workers to start taking care of the fungus for her and feeding her. And so that's what claustral means. It means when an ant queen flies out and she doesn't really eat or do anything until she's got workers to help her. Inversely, a semi-claustral queen, like say a trapjaw ant or bullet ant, those queens have very small abdomens in relation to their body size and in relation to their worker size. So they don't have a lot of storage like the Addite, the Texas leafcutter ants do. So they have to continuously forage and eat food and get water as they're raising their nests. So either way you look at it, it's a hard life being an ant queen, but we're so grateful that these insects have developed over the history of the planet to be so successful and so variable that they can serve so many roles in their respective ecosystems. It's just so spectacular. And I absolutely love every moment that I'm able to find iconic species such as this. The Texas leafcutter ant, it just doesn't get much better than that. So my friends, I think we had a good time. I know I had an awesome time finding this amazingly intricate, beautiful, and ginormous ant nest. So I think we've come to a crossroads here. What is the crossroads, you may ask? I want to leave and go do something else, and you want to stay here and watch thousands upon thousands of hours worth of Jack's World of Wildlife content. Now, I respect the drive. I respect the passion of that. And you know what? I actually probably do have thousands of hours worth of Jack's World of Wildlife content that you, of course, are more than free to watch in my absence. But my friends, I'm sorry to say, I've got to go. So if I can leave you with anything, let me leave you with this. The world is full of life, some crazy diversity out there. There's some cute animals, there's some interesting animals, there's some funny animals. But there's also some creepy crawlies, some scary stuff, maybe even some dangerous stuff. And what I'm here to show you all today is even the most bizarre or dangerous or creepy animals on Earth, they serve a purpose. They're here for a reason, and we rely on them for the health of not only ourselves, but our ecosystems all over the globe. So it's important that even these tiny little ants, they might seem inconsequential, they might seem out of sight and out of mind, these are ever much as important as some of our larger and more charismatic species. And I absolutely just love to bring you all into the world of even these tiny, quote unquote, you might say insignificant species, because every little life, from these wildflowers to these ants, is a building block in a healthy ecosystem. And without all of them, none of it works. So just remember that even the most creepy crawly, tiny, boring, gross, scary animals on Earth, they've got a reason to be here, and they deserve every ounce of respect and appreciation that we afford to any other type of animal. So thanks for tuning in today, and I hope to see you next time. Until then.
Yeah.